America, bitch. Where are your ancestors from? They're not from this country.
You're going back to Mexico.
Bitch, you better go back to
Excuse me?
Hey, God, bitch, you just touched me.
The convenience store's air conditioning hummed, a weak defense against the summer heat outside. It was quiet, save for the beep of the scanner and the rabble of the ice machine. Amir, the clerk, worked methodically, his face a mask of neutrality. A woman in a striped dress, Karen, stood second in the short line. She wasn't just waiting, she was simmering. Her foot tapped impatiently on the linoleum floor, a rapid, angry rhythm. She let out a loud, exaggerated sigh, loud enough for everyone to hear. Her gaze fixed on the woman in front of her, Maria, who was browsing the ice cream freezer. Karen muttered something under her breath, shaking her head. She despised waiting for anyone. Maria, unaware of the building rage behind her, pointed at a selection. She was taking her time, briefly chatting with Amir. Karen took one step forward, her patience completely gone. She saw Maria not as a person, but as an obstacle. The store suddenly felt very small. "Are you going to be all day?" Karen's voice cut through the quiet. Maria turned, surprised by the venom in the tone. Amir froze for a split second, his hand hovering over the cash register. He had seen this kind of customer before. He knew this was not going to end well. Maria offered a hesitant smile. "I'm sorry, I'm almost done." "This is ridiculous," Karen snapped, stepping right up behind her. She got so close Maria could feel the heat radiating from her. The air crackled with hostility. Karen adjusted the sunglasses she still wore indoors. "You people always take your time, don't you?" Maria's smile vanished, replaced with confusion and offense. "Excuse me, what do you mean, you people?" Amir spoke up. "Ma'am, please, just a moment." Karen ignored him completely. Her voice dropped to a sneer. "You heard me. This is America. Learn to be on time." Maria took a half step back, her hand slightly raised. "You don't know anything about me," Maria said, her voice shaking slightly. The casual racism hung in the air, thick and toxic. "I know your kind," Karen continued, her face twisting. She pointed a finger at Maria's chest. "Why don't you just go back to where you came from?" Gasps came from another customer who had just entered the store. Amir said, "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "I'm not going anywhere until she moves," Karen spat. Maria stood her ground. "You are not going to talk to me like that." "Or what?" Karen challenged, puffing out her chest. The scene was set for a collision. Two worlds were about to impact. Karen ripped her sunglasses from her face, her eyes blazing. She looked at Maria with pure, unadulterated contempt. "You are wasting my time," she seethed. Maria replied, "And you are being racist." The truth of the word seemed to make Karen even angrier. In that moment, Karen's flimsy control snapped. She didn't just want Maria to move, she wanted to make her move. She wanted to punish her for existing. She saw the exit sign over the door as an invitation. She decided to remove the obstacle herself. "Move, bitch!" Karen yelled. She lunged forward, not just bumping, but shoving. She used both hands, pushing Maria hard in the chest. It was a violent, unprovoked assault. The sound of the shove was a dull thud. Maria stumbled backward, crashing into the plastic lip of the ice cream freezer. The impact knocked the wind out of her. For 1/2 second, there was total silence in the store. Amir's mouth was wide open in shock. Karen stood tall, a smirk of triumph on her face. But that smirk faded instantly. She had miscalculated, assuming her victim was weak. She did not see the shock in Maria's eyes turn to fire. She did not see the adrenaline dump that stiffened her spine. She did not see the consequence she had just unleashed. Maria didn't yell, she didn't cry. She lunged back from the freezer with incredible speed. Her body coiled like a spring, and then released. She did not hesitate. She did not wait for permission. Maria's right hand flew, a blur of motion. Her fist connected squarely with the side of Karen's face. The sound of the impact was sharp, like a baseball bat hitting a melon. Karen's sunglasses, still in her left hand, went flying. The force of the blow snapped Karen's head to the side. Karen staggered, her eyes wide with disbelief. The pain was instant, a white-hot explosion. Before she could even register the first hit, the second one came. Maria was a flurry of motion, a storm of pure reaction. This was no longer a confrontation. It was a beatdown. Maria grabbed a handful of Karen's blonde hair. She yanked her forward, off balance. Karen shrieked, a sound of pure panic. Maria's other hand was free, and she used it. Another punch landed, and another. Amir shouted, "Hey! Hey, stop!" He fumbled for the phone behind the counter. But it was happening too fast. Karen was completely defenseless, her arms flailing uselessly. She was discovering the meaning of instant karma. She slammed Karen's head toward the floor. The woman in the striped dress crumpled, her arrogance vanishing. She landed in a heap next to a yellow wet floor sign. Maria stood over her, breathing hard, her entire body shaking. The store was silent once more, except for Karen's whimpering. For a long moment, Maria just stood there, her chest heaving. The adrenaline was a roaring fire in her veins. She looked at her own hands, half expecting to see them covered in blood. Karen was a crumpled heap on the dirty linoleum. The silence was louder than the fight had been. Amir was on the phone, his voice urgent and high-pitched. Yes, 7-Eleven on Main, a fight. A woman assaulted another woman. He looked at Maria, his eyes wide with fear and shock. He wasn't sure if he was reporting an assault or a defense. He just wanted the police there. Karen began to wail, a thin, pitiful sound. It was not a cry of pain, but of pure, abject humiliation. She slowly pushed herself up onto her hands and knees. Her bleached blonde hair was a mess, stuck to the tears and spittle on her face. Her striped dress was twisted awkwardly around her waist. She looked up at Maria, her eyes no longer filled with hate, only terror. This was a reality she had never prepared for. In her world, her words had no physical consequences. She had always been the one in charge, the one who intimidated. That illusion was now shattered, lying in pieces on the floor. Maria took one step back, the fire in her eyes dimming. She was seeing the pathetic woman on the floor, not the monster from moments ago. The other customer, who had been hiding by the drink coolers, was now filming with their phone. The red recording light was a tiny, accusing eye. This moment was being captured forever. You broke my nose," Karen stammered, blood trickling from her nostrils. Maria said nothing. She simply watched, her expression hardening again. She felt no pity. She felt nothing but a cold, hard sense of justice. Karen tried to stand, but her legs were shaky. She grabbed onto the wet floor sign to pull herself up. The sign skidded and she slipped back down, landing hard on her hip. The other customer's phone camera zoomed in. A small, cruel laugh escaped the person filming. "Please, stop filming," Karen begged, holding a hand up. The customer replied, "You didn't ask her to, please, stop being racist." The voice was cold and unforgiving. The video was already being uploaded. Karen's world was collapsing in real time. Maria turned away from the scene. She walked calmly back to the ice cream freezer. She opened the door, the cold mist washing over her face. Amir stared at her, phone still pressed to his ear. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. She reached in and grabbed the ice cream she had originally wanted. She walked to the counter, placing it down gently. She looked at Amir. "I'm ready to pay now." Her voice was steady, almost calm. It was the most surreal thing Amir had ever witnessed. Karen, seeing Maria about to leave, scrambled to her feet. "You can't just leave! You assaulted me!" she shrieked. Her voice was raw, cracking with desperation. She lunged, not to attack, but to grab Maria's arm. It was a foolish, desperate move. Maria, sensing the movement, turned. She didn't flinch. She didn't strike. She simply held up her hand in a stop gesture. "Don't you ever touch me again," she said, her voice low and dangerous. The authority in that statement was absolute. Karen froze, her hand hovering in the air. She recoiled as if she had been slapped again. The fear of another beating was greater than her desire for revenge. She was utterly broken. She backed away, stumbling over her own feet. Amir, his hand shaking, rang up the ice cream. "That will be, $4.50, he stammered. Maria pulled a $5 bill from her pocket. She placed it on the counter. "Keep the change," she said. The sound of distant sirens grew closer. Maria took her ice cream and the receipt. She looked at Amir. "I have your name if they need it. I was defending myself." Amir just nodded, unable to speak. He had seen the whole thing. She was telling the truth. Maria walked toward the glass doors. Karen was cowering near the magazine rack, sobbing. Maria pushed the door open, and the hot afternoon air hit her. She stepped out into the sunlight. She felt strangely calm, strangely light. A police car, lights flashing, pulled into the parking lot. It parked at an angle, and 2 officers began to get out. Maria didn't run. She stood on the sidewalk, waiting. The officer, a tall man with a stern face, looked at her. "Were you involved in the disturbance, ma'am?" "Yes, sir," Maria said. "She assaulted me, and I defended myself." Her honesty was disarming. She pointed back inside the store. The officer looked past her, through the glass. He saw Karen, a bloody, weeping mess being filmed by another customer. He saw Amir, pale and shaking, behind the counter. This was not the simple story he was expecting. He sighed. "Okay, ma'am. Please wait right here." Maria nodded and leaned against the wall, unwrapping her ice cream. The second officer went inside, his hand on his radio. The first officer stayed with Maria. She took a small bite of the ice cream. The fight was over, but the consequences were just beginning. Red and blue lights painted the parking lot and pulsing strokes of red and blue. Officer Riley stood with Maria, maintaining a professional distance. Maria had finished her ice cream, crumpling the wrapper in her hand. She was not in handcuffs. She simply waited, a silent observer of the consequences she had set in motion. Inside the store, Officer Miller listened to Karen's story. It was a performance of high drama and streaming tears. "She just attacked me, for no reason. I was just standing in line," she wailed. She pointed a bloody finger at Amir. "He saw it. Tell him." Officer Miller turned his gaze to Amir, who looked terrified. "Son, tell me exactly what happened, from the beginning." Amir swallowed. The lady in the dress, she was yelling. She told the other lady to go back to her country, and then she shoved her." Karen shrieked. "He's lying. They're in it together. It's a conspiracy." Officer Miller had been a cop for 20 years. He smelled a lie like smoke. He saw Karen's eyes, darting around, calculating. He saw Amir, who was visibly shaking, but sticking to his story. "Ma'am, I need you to calm down and let him speak," Miller said. This was a he said, she said, and it was messy. Outside, Officer Riley finished taking Maria's statement. It was short, factual, and delivered without emotion. "She called me a spick. She told me to go back to Mexico. She put her hands on me and shoved me. I defended myself." "You don't deny hitting her, then?" Riley asked. "No, I do not deny it. I stopped as soon as she was on the ground." Riley noted her calm demeanor, her steady hands. She wasn't agitated like a typical assailant. She wasn't crying like a typical victim. She was something else. "Okay, Ms. Sanchez, we need to get all sides of this," he said. Back inside, Karen made her critical error. "You can't believe him," she sneered at Amir, gesturing to Amir. "He's not even from here. Of course he's going to take her side." The racist remark hung in the air, sucking the oxygen out of the room. Officer Miller's expression, previously neutral, went cold. "And what exactly do you mean by that, ma'am?" Before Karen could dig her hole deeper, the other customer stepped forward. "Officer, I have a video. I have the entire thing." It was a young woman, her phone held out like a weapon. She's been harassing her since she walked in. Officer Miller looked from the customer back to Karen. Her face, already blotchy from crying, turned ghost white. "A video?" she stammered. "Yes," the customer said, her voice dripping with contempt. "All of it." She pressed play and handed the phone to the officer. Miller watched the small screen, his face unreadable. He heard Karen's voice, high and nasal. "This is America, bitch!" He heard, "Go back to where you came from." He saw the violent two-handed shove that sent Maria flying. The video was clear, stable, and utterly damning. He watched the retaliation. He saw the first punch land hard and fast. He saw the flurry of hits, Maria's focused rage. He saw her grab the hair and pull Karen down. And he saw her, just as she claimed, stop the moment the threat was over. He replayed the first part one more time. The shove, the verbal assault. The crime was not the one Karen had reported. The crime was the one Karen had committed. He looked up from the phone. "Ma'am," he said to the customer, "I need you to send a copy of that to the department." "Already uploading it to YouTube, officer," she replied, "and Twitter and everywhere." A new kind of dread filled Karen's eyes, a fear worse than the police, the fear of public shame. Officer Miller turned to her. "Ma'am, I have seen the video of you committing assault and battery." "No, I was, it's not." The false narrative evaporated. There was no one to charm, no manager to demand. There was only the truth on video. "Stand up," Miller commanded. "But my face, I'm the one who's hurt," she cried. "You initiated a physical confrontation after a racially motivated verbal assault. You are the primary aggressor." His voice was like ice. "Put your hands behind your back." The sound of the handcuffs clicking shut was shockingly loud. It was the sound of a world turning upside down. Karen let out a strangled sob, a sound of utter final defeat. Amir watched, his heart pounding. He had never seen a customer arrested before. "You have the right to remain silent," Miller began, his voice a monotone. He pulled Karen to her feet, her hands cuffed behind her. Her striped dress was stained with blood and dirt. She was no longer an intimidating force. She was a prisoner. Miller led her out of the store. The hot air and flashing lights hit her. She saw Maria standing by the wall, watching. She saw the person with the phone still filming her in handcuffs. Their eyes met, Karen's and Maria's. Karen looked for pity, for remorse, for anything. Maria's face was a mask. She did not smile. She simply watched. Riley opened the back door of the squad car. Miller pushed Karen's head down and guided her into the seat. As the door slammed shut, Maria finally let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. The fight was over. The battle of the video was about to begin. The flashing lights pulled away, leaving the convenience store parking lot in a sudden, heavy silence. Maria was left standing on the sidewalk, the crumpled ice cream wrapper still clutched in her hand. Officer Riley had been professional. "You're free to go, Miss Sanchez. We have your statement." He had called her a victim. But she didn't feel like a victim. Inside the store, Amir was on his hands and knees. He was using a wad of paper towels to wipe a small, dark smear from the linoleum. It was Karen's blood. The wet floor sign was back in its proper place. He just wanted the night to be over. The customer with the phone, Jenna, was already in her car. She wasn't calling the police or her family. She was editing the video, adding a text overlay. "Racist Karen gets instant karma in convenience store." She hit upload before she even started the engine. The digital fuse was lit. By the time Maria got home to her small apartment, her phone was buzzing. It was on her kitchen counter, vibrating angrily. A text from her cousin. "OMG, is this you?" A link was attached. Her heart sank. She clicked the link, and her own face stared back at her. She saw the incident from Jenna's angle. She heard Karen's words, "Go back to where you came from," clearer than before. Then she saw her own fists, the blur of motion, the raw violence. She felt sick to her stomach. But the comments section told a different story. "This is the hero we needed today. Queen behavior. She took out the trash. That first punch was solid, 10 out of 10. Thousands of likes were turning into tens of thousands." Maria closed the app, her hand shaking. They were calling her a hero for an act that terrified her. She had lost control, and the world was celebrating her for it. She felt a deep, profound sense of isolation. This wasn't justice. It was a spectacle. Meanwhile, at the precinct, Karen was processed. She was fingerprinted, her fake nails clicking awkwardly on the scanner. They took her mugshot, her face swollen, her nose bandaged by a paramedic. The bleached blonde hair was matted with dried blood and tears. The flash of the camera felt like another blow. She made her one phone call to her husband. "You have to get me out. They arrested me. This woman attacked me." Her voice was a hysterical whisper. But her husband's voice was cold. "Karen, I've already seen it." "Seen what?" she asked, her blood running cold. "The video, Karen. It's everywhere." There was a long, terrible silence on the line. "They're calling me. My office is getting calls. You have to fix this," she shrieked. The line went dead. He had hung up on her. By 3 a.m., convenience store Karen was the #1 trending topic. Internet sleuths, fueled by righteous anger, had found her. Her full name, Karen Miller. Her employer, a middle-level real estate agency. Her Facebook profile, full of inspirational quotes, was now a digital war zone. The agency's Yelp page was a sea of one-star reviews. "My agent, Karen Miller, told me to go back to my country when I asked about a mortgage. Would give 0 stars, employ violent racists." The owner of the agency woke up to a PR nightmare. His company's reputation was being torched. Back at the convenience store, Amir started his morning shift. A local news van was parked out front. A reporter ambushed him as he unlocked the door. "Sir, you witnessed the attack yesterday. Can you tell us what you saw?" Amir just shook his head and pushed past them, locking the door behind him. Maria hadn't slept. She looked out her apartment window and saw it, another news van, parked across the street. They had found her too. They were hunting for the hero. Karen was released on bail at 6 a.m. She walked out of the precinct, wearing her husband's hoodie to cover her face. A small group of photographers was waiting. The camera flashes were brutal. She ran to her car, sobbing, the shame complete. She got home and the house was empty. Her husband was gone. A note was on the kitchen table. "Staying at my brother's. Don't call me. We'll talk when the lawyers are involved." She had lost her freedom, her reputation, and her marriage in less than 12 hours. Her phone rang. It was her boss. "Karen, I've seen the video. We are being destroyed online." "It's not what it looks like," Karen lied desperately. "The video shows you shoving her, Karen. It shows you berating her." "But you are suspended, effective immediately. Don't come to the office. We are releasing a statement." The call ended. Karen slid to the kitchen floor, the note from her husband in her hand. She was completely, totally alone. Her life was over. Maria's phone buzzed again. It was a message request from a major news network. "Miss Sanchez, we'd love for you to come on and share your story. You are an inspiration." Maria looked at the word inspiration. She looked at the news van outside. She went to her closet and pulled out a simple, dark blue dress. She was not going to hide. They wanted her story. She would give it to them. But it wouldn't be the story they were expecting. The battle was no longer in the store. It was for the narrative. Maria sat in a brightly lit television studio. The anchor, a woman with a practiced, sympathetic smile, leaned in. "So, Maria, tell us, how did it feel to stand up to that kind of hate?" The cameras were rolling, and millions were watching. They expected a story of a triumphant hero. Maria looked directly into the main camera, her face calm. "It didn't feel like a victory," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I felt terrified, and I felt angry that I was put in a position where violence was my only answer." The anchor's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. This was not the pre-approved narrative. "He called me a racist. She called me a spick," Maria continued. "But when I hit her, I became just like her. I let hate answer hate. I don't want to be celebrated for that. I want people to ask why this happens at all." The control room was silent. Maria had just changed the entire conversation. Meanwhile, Karen sat on the floor of her empty house. The foreclosure notice was taped to the front door. She was watching Maria's interview on an old laptop. She listened, expecting to hear gloating, to hear insults. She heard regret. Maria's words cut deeper than any punch had. "That woman," Maria said, "her life is ruined. And for what? Because she couldn't wait 30 seconds for ice cream? I don't celebrate her pain. I mourn the fact that we live in a world where this is normal." Karen finally broke. Her sobs were not for herself, but for the sheer, pointless waste of it all. It was the first moment of genuine remorse she had ever felt. The interview went viral for a different reason. Maria Sanchez declines hero label, calls for de-escalation. The comments shifted from celebrating violence to discussing empathy. She had used her platform not to boast, but to teach. She had won the narrative battle. Weeks later, Maria walked back into the same convenience store. Amir was behind the counter. When he saw her, he broke into a wide, genuine smile. "I saw you on TV. You were amazing." "I just told the truth," Maria said, smiling back. "This is for you," Amir said, pushing a small envelope across the counter. Inside was a thank you card from the store's corporate office and a gift certificate for $500. "You are welcome here anytime, Miss Sanchez. You are family." For the first time since the incident, Maria's eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of relief. Karen's court date arrived. She stood before the judge, no lawyer by her side. She had sold her car to pay the court fees. She wore a simple black dress, her hair dyed back to its natural brown. She looked smaller, humbled. "Miss Miller, you have pleaded no contest to one charge of assault and one charge of harassment. Do you have anything to say?" Karen took a deep breath, her hands shaking. She looked at the back of the courtroom, where Maria sat watching. "Yes, Your Honor, I am guilty. I am guilty of assault. But I am also guilty of hate. I was an angry, entitled person, and I was a racist. I terrorized Miss Sanchez. I am the only one responsible for my actions." The courtroom was stunned into silence. No one expected a full confession. "I have lost my job, my home, and my family. And I deserve it. I would like to apologize, not to the court, but to Maria. Maria, I am so truly, deeply sorry for what I did to you." Maria met her gaze, her expression unreadable. She gave a single, slow nod. The judge sentenced Karen to 200 hours of community service and mandatory anger management. It was a light sentence, but the judge knew the public had already served a harsher one. Karen walked out of the courtroom, a free woman, but a changed one. Her journey of atonement was just beginning. She would be serving her hours at a local immigrant outreach center. Reporters swarmed Maria as she left the courthouse. "What did you think of the apology? Was it enough?" Maria stopped. "I think it's a start." "Are you a hero, Maria?" another reporter yelled. She shook her head. No, I'm just a person who wanted to buy ice cream. The heroes are the people who are kind when they don't have to be. Amar, who told the truth when he was scared. Jenna, who filmed it. Compassion is the real strength. That's the story. She walked away, leaving the media circus behind. Months passed. The video faded from public memory. Maria used the money from her interviews to start a small local anti-bullying workshop. She was teaching kids how to de-escalate, how to use words, not fists. She had turned her moment of rage into a lifetime of purpose. She was healing, not just herself, but her community. Karen finished her community service. She worked in the kitchen of the outreach center, washing dishes, invisible. She listened to the stories of the people she had once despised. She learned their names. She learned their struggles. She began, for the first time in her life, to see them as human. One afternoon, she saw a new volunteer walk in to lead a workshop. It was Maria. Their eyes met across the crowded room. Karen froze, her hands submerged in dishwater. Maria simply looked at her, then turned to her class and began to speak. Karen did not run. She did not hide. She simply continued to wash the dishes, listening to Maria's voice. It was the sound of strength, of peace, of resilience. It was a lesson in humility, served daily. There was no grand reunion, no tearful forgiveness. There was only the quiet, unspoken understanding. One life ruined by hate was being rebuilt through service. Another life, defined by a moment of violence, was now dedicated to peace. The karma was complete, not as revenge, but as balance.